You're listening to Honey, we started a Disney podcast. Two friends since first grade, now dads reliving the Disney movies we grew up on with our own kids. I'm JB Wagner.
And I'm Eddie Ferguson. And on today's episode, we feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up, it's bobsled time, cool runnings. But first, JB, how are you and the family doing?
We're fine.
Cool.
So any Disney news, Eddie?
No. Very little going on, you know.
Sounds
Have
good.
you watched anything randomly on Disney Plus besides Cool Runnings?
Watched Captain Marvel again.
How was that?
Forgot how visual it was. It was very striking.
It
It didn't stop me from falling asleep because I'm older and I fall asleep at 9:30 on the couch. But
Visual.
if it's a movie, I see it again. But how about you? You watch anything?
I rewatched the first Avengers movie.
Ooh, how did that go?
It's actually slower than I remember. You know, it's got its little chunky moments.
Bogged down slow or just, no, this is just the pace we're going to go. We're going to go
I
on cruise.
find
Cruise
the
control.
whole sequence on the aircraft carrier that floats, I don't know the name of it, just to be slow. Like, we could pick this up here a little bit. Much like this episode we are recording right now.
I think it's a good time. You know what? Let's give the people what they paid for. And that is, let's jump into Cool Runnings.
Cue the Disney-ish sound effect.
After that lively intro, here is IMDb's description of
our shortest
intro possible. We are freaking everybody out right now. Everybody, this is like church. If you showed up late and you just skipped ahead 20 minutes, you're going to jump into the middle of this.
Where are they? What's going on?
Yep. So this is Cool Runnings, and I'm not even going to attempt a Jamaican accent for this. When a Jamaican sprinter is disqualified from the Olympic Games, he enlists the help of a dishonored coach to start the first Jamaican bobsled team. That's all you need to know right there.
So was this a staple movie in your household?
I did not see this movie for the first time. I can remember where it was because my dad being a pastor, I always went to all of the youth events. And I remember going to, I can't remember for what reason, I was with some older kids. I might have been in junior high when this happened. And I just showed up for a youth event and someone played Cool Runnings there. Don't remember why. Don't remember what was going on. Actually, it might not even be a youth event. And someone was playing Cool Runnings. I saw this many years after it first came out. So I don't have I remember it being a cultural thing that happened later on. Like I started to pick up steam after it came out. So when I was in junior high school, it became a bigger deal, but not when it first initially came out.
This was a big movie for us in the Ferguson household. So I've mentioned this before when we were on Mighty Ducks, but we kind of had our set movies that when there was a snow day, we would watch these movies, right? So it was Mighty Ducks, it was Iron Will, which we will cover here in a few episodes, and then it was also Cool Runnings. You know, so this was like snow day. We make SpaghettiOs or
SpaghettiOs. Yeah, that's a good call.
SpaghettiOs. Sometimes macaroni and cheese.
You get a hearty, hot meal to go with watching a very cold movie.
And it's cold outside because it's a snow day, of course. And we would watch Cool Runnings. And so, I mean, this movie I have memorized. I can quote it. This has always been one of my favorites. So this was fun to go back and rewatch it.
For the kids out there that are listening to this in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, snow days were days because we all went to school in person, if there was snow in the Midwest and it was dangerous to drive on the roads, you would not go to school.
Yeah, you physically couldn't get there.
They canceled school. And then if you missed too many of those days, too many snow days, then you got to
had to go into the summer
and you went to the summer, or you missed.
But you would get the day totally off. You would get the day totally off.
No,
so you don't have to have an e-learning
Mm-mm.
day, no virtual school. You just had it off. You could do. So we would sled because there was fresh snow on the ground, and we would watch as many movies as possible in one day.
So may you rest in peace, snow days. I know that those are forever gone now with
sad
e-learning. But I digress. Back to what we came to talk about for this film. So Eddie, growing up watching this film, what are the iconic moments that you remember from this film as a kid that you were like, yes, I love that moment?
Well, gosh, there's just so many, right? Like, I love the lucky egg shtick that goes through the whole movie. There's a lot of
sticks in this. There's a lot of recurring jokes.
But that's just kind of one of those ones that I think is always just kind of like, that's so weird, but okay, it's funny. It's kind of cool for that. And it's just, it's funny. I also love all of the jokes against Yule, the bald-headed guy. My favorite one is when he says, "How about I draw a line down the middle of your head so it looks like a butt?" I love it when, they come out of the airport when they first hit Calgary and they're coming out and they're all freezing cold.
The camera pans and they don't come with it. And then it goes back and they're freezing cold. Yep.
And then, he's like, "Hey man, what you smoking?" And he's like, "I'm not smoking, I'm breathing." We probably quote that line every time it's cold enough to see your breath outside,
This is a very quotable movie. There's a lot of one-liners in this. Every time they say "Sanka, you dead man."
You dead man.
Yeah, man. Sorry, now we have to kind of to kind of.
Isn't that what's so interesting? It's hard to talk about this movie. It's hard to quote it without doing your poor, horrible version of a Jamaican accent. But there is just so many. It's just quote one right after another. It is so funny.
Did you do any research to find out if these actors were originally from Jamaica or not? Do you know the origin? Did you do a DNA test? I
did not.
Ancestry.org. Check. On these
so
people.
a quick just click through. The guy who plays Derice, he's American. He's not Jamaican. Same is for the guy who plays Sanka. And the guy who plays Yule, like, goes on to do quite a lot. Like, he had a big thing in Empire. He had a big thing in Designated Survivor. Like, that's when I remember him coming back. He's the FBI deputy director in that show. So he's done a lot of other things.
Eddie.
They're all American.
Okay. I know I had seen his face, and I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out what other shows. I knew he was a policeman or FBI agent. The whole time I'm going, I've seen him in something I've watched recently, and it's Designated Survivor. That's the one. I watched the first 2 seasons of that. I can't believe I didn't put that together. The whole time I was trying to figure it out.
You made it through 2 whole seasons of that show?
I did, because I love that. I love that, like, it's my guilty pleasure of FBI investigative.
But it was so poorly written. Like, the premise is great. The actors are amazing.
It's also the sweet spot of
drudge. It's just like drudging through mud.
But it's 24's Kiefer Sutherland. He's back again. He's not going to kill people, but he's running the country. It's a little bit all the things, but I only made it through 2 seasons.
I wanted more. I just wanted so much more.
I think we all wanted more, but at the same time, it was a piece of my history. I don't say that I'm super proud of it, but anyways. But yes, that actor.
Yes, so they are not Jamaican, at least what a quick look at Wikipedia tells me. which we all know that is valid.
One of my favorite moments that I've forgotten about was when they gather all the people in for the first time that want to be on this Jamaican bobsled team. And he's like, okay, show them what they're going to be getting themselves into. They close the lights down and they start watching all the footage, and he's going through describing it. And then
bones don't break, they shatter.
Your bones don't break in a bobsled. They shatter. He's just like all the bloopers of all of the crashes over and over and over again. And they look like crash dummies in most of these videos. And then they turn on the lights and everybody's gone. I love that.
So just kind of talking about that, I think we'd be remiss to not land here on John Candy for a little while. And that's definitely, I think that scene is emblematic of his entire performance in this movie. It's so different than everything else we see John Candy do, right? Like, he usually is the funniest person in the movie.
He plays this straight.
And he is the straight-faced guy that all of the jokes bounce against. It's just so what we're not used to seeing from him. You know, you think of Planes, Trains, and Automobile, or Uncle Buck, or, you know, even his short little appearance in Home Alone. Like, he's the line giver, you know, like, he's the one line giver. He's the funniest giver. The line giver. I don't know how to say that, but in this movie, he's not at all. Like, I don't think he has any like really hysterical line. He actually is one that brings some of the heart.
Yes, he does.
Which really kind of, I don't know. I watched it this time going, wow, he is a more well-rounded actor than I realized. You know, you always think of him as just this comedic genius, but this movie definitely shows a different side to him.
He has a very strong line when he's confronting them about getting them the chance to stay in the race. And he said, wow, I didn't know 4 black guys in a bobsled could make you blush. That was a straight to the heart. Yeah. Straight to even what, if they were going to make this movie again, that line would make it.
Still be in there. No, and he's got the moment there at the very end of the movie as well, when, you know, they embrace and kind of have that. Well, and even a little before that, when Doris kind of asks him, like, why did you cheat? And that whole kind of dialogue over the pursuits of life and, you know, just wanting to win, and winning is never enough, and needing
winning
more.
Is never enough. Yep.
It just kind of gets to the heart of it. It's a much more powerful moment. We're not used to seeing him deliver that in a movie per se, but in here, he just delivers it so good. And yeah, I think that's why this movie is so good, is that it is hilarious. It is a unique, fun story, but it's also
fish out of water story.
Yeah, and it's heartfelt. It's inspiring. You know, that ending when they crash and they're like, we have to finish the race, and they pick up the sled, and they're
spoiler alert
walking. I mean, this movie is 30 years old, people. Come on, almost 30 years old. Yeah, I mean, just it's just rousing and you know, inspirational.
It even got the Swiss guy at the end. He was the Swiss guy. Slow clapping. You know, I love a good American snow clap. Snow clap? Oh yeah. It's slow claps. Although for this it works.
Slow clap in the snow. Yeah.
In the snow. Yep. There was one. He did have one. John Candy had one really funny moment. This was definitely one of my favorite lines in the movie. He brings them all together right as they're about to, I think the night before, getting together. He's like, I'm not here to normally do big speeches.
Yes,
and he goes,
yes.
Our Father which art in Calgary, bobsled be thy name. He uses the Lord's Prayer.
Thy kingdom come, gold medals won. On earth as it is in turn 7.
Turn 7.
With liberty and justice for Jamaica. And Haley Selzy. Amen.
That was I had to stop the movie and just like write down that first line. It was so good.
Oh, I looked it up because I'm like, what was all of that? I think my favorite is like Kingdom Come, gold medals won on Earth as it is in Turn 7.
Turn 7. That was such a random. I mean, I guess that's how it rhymes.
Ah, so good. But yeah, I want to know who wrote this thing because it is so quotable. It's just kind of one thing after another that is just hilarious. He's not really done too many. He did Little Giants, which that's a funny movie.
The writer of this?
Michael Goldberg, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they went on and they did Little Giants and they did Snow Dogs. One of the writers was a part of the writing team with Mel Brooks on Spaceballs, so that kind of makes sense.
This was the director of this, John Turteltaub. This was his first big film because he's got a couple other ones in here, but Cool Runnings comes around. He ended up doing The Kid, I don't know if you saw that. That was the Bruce Willis film.
We love that movie. Yeah.
There's
National Treasure?
National Treasure, Book of Secrets. Yep.
What?
And then, so the first two National Treasure films, he's done a lot of TV. John Turteltaub has, but Cool Runnings is like his first breakout, isn't the first movie. But he also did While You Were Sleeping, was another film that he was a part of. Oh, am I in the wrong section on his movie thing? Yeah. He went from Cool Runnings to While You Were Sleeping. So I think he was probably trying to change its image. Maybe, I don't know.
Just a little.
That's funny.
Did you notice who did the music for this one?
This is what I rely on you for, Eddie.
Hans Zimmer did the music for Cool Runnings.
Oh, Hans.
Like he pretty much leaves this movie and goes on to do The Lion King.
Also talking about diversifying your portfolio.
Yeah.
I guess staying inside the Disney house,
sure.
House of Mouse.
But it was just like, I never knew that. And when it popped up on the screen, the opening credits, I was like, what? Hans Zimmer? Was totally unexpected all of this.
Eddie, another great moment from this. We got another montage. You know how much I love the montages.
So let's talk about this one for a while.
And are we talking about the first one? The first them
there's
like
two.
prepping
There's
with the Swiss like prepping that first time. This is where he falls in love with the Swiss team right here.
I love the sure, there's a good one while they're still on the island, but the one, so when they get to Calgary, I love that rhythm of them discovering and learning kind of the inner workings of being a bobsled team, right?
Yep.
And they kind of have that moment, and I love a good kind of turn it around in training sequence that every sports movie has to have, right?
Yep.
It's like, we got to turn this around, so we're going to buckle down in training. But that shot of the four of them waking John Candy's character up and saying, rise and shine, butt whipping time.
It's butt whooping time.
Oh, and then that whole sequence is just so good. And I think it's that sequence that, and doing some research, the cover of I Can See Clearly Now was actually had a big hit outside of the movie. It hit the top 40 charts in the US.
Oh, gotcha.
Random fact for you.
There's a lot of montages in this film. The one that sticks out to me had echoes of Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken when the Swiss team is preparing their sled or whatever they call it. sled? Is that sled?
Yeah,
sleigh?
sled.
I don't know what it's called. There's not reindeer.
No, sled would be the
industry term.
Accurate.
The industry term for that.
Vernacular. Okay. Yeah.
They're preparing it, and he's just kind of watching them as they prepare. And that's when he gets the idea to like smack the helmets and to do the Swiss when it's like about to go off, when they're doing the rhythm. The only problem is there was no lightning bolt. I was really upset. There was no lightning bolt like Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken, where it comes out when she's like petting the horse the night before.
I knew you would love that movie. I knew Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken.
You know, I just think about it every
other. With you.
I think about it every other day. I think about the dandelion blowing. I'm still torn apart by that. So there was no lightning bolt.
Is your heart a wild heart?
I mean, I got kids now, so they kind of broke that wild heart. So there's not really a lot of wildness left, except for this podcast, because you don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm wacky. You don't know what thing I'm going to do. Inside, I'm crying. You talk for a little bit, Eddie.
So montage. The other thing that this movie does that I don't know that I've seen in a while is and I don't even know how to technically describe this, but it's the sped up sequence.
Oh, the sped up.
You know what I mean? Where it's like they do it like it's obvious that it's like in triple time or whatever.
You get a little bit of that in Home Alone when they realize they overslept again in the second one, and they go, "We did it again!" And then they go really fast, and everybody's going through the house. Yep.
Which is
it's a 90s thing.
It was a 90s thing.
90s trope.
Yeah. So there's a couple of good ones in that. Probably the funny one is when they decide to put on all of their clothes when they get to Calgary. That's
because he's saying, I love his line, "I'm freezing my Royal Rastafarian nays off." So when I'm with my son now, call them call them nays from now on.
Royal Rastafari nays. I love the little back and forth, the banter always between Sanka and Doris. But at the very beginning when he's trying to convince him to go, and he's like, ice. You mean like as in penguins and Eskimos and igloos and ice? Maybe. See him on.
This movie, what would this movie be like without Sanka? I feel like it would lose 20% of its
easily
20 to 30%,
if not more. He's the one that delivers the lines one after another.
He keeps it lively. He keeps it fun. It's less of a movie of three incredible athletes just working their tails off to win, and he brings that sense of like, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's so funny, and but he's also the one. I think all of the other three guys are on this journey of self-discovery, of being comfortable with who they are.
There is no self-discovery for Sanka. He knows what he is.
But he knows what he is, right? He's got the line where he's saying, "All I'm saying, man, is if we walk Jamaican, talk Jamaican, and is Jamaican, well then sure as heck we better bobsled Jamaican," right? Like,
well, he's the reason that it comes back to when they stop using the Swiss terminology or phrasing when they're getting ready. He brings it back to feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. It's pushcart time.
Get on up. Yep.
But now it's bobsled time.
Which is it's interesting that you have kind of your jester character.
Jester character, yeah.
That is he
actually is right the whole time.
He's right the whole time.
He is right the whole time. He has to bring his friend to let's stop trying to do this somebody else's way. Also, when they finally, and right as that time, and then they paint the bobsled, that's the fastest paint job I've ever seen in my life. That thing was like painted.
Another montage sequence.
So fast. My uncle paints cars for a living. That's one of his many things that he does with
he owns a body shop.
Owning a body shop. I should have him on speed dial right now. I'm asking him, how far off is this paint job? Because that thing looked gorgeous on that, from what it was as a clunker. Which, speaking of clunker, I know that I'm going down more and more rabbit trails, but that's what this podcast is. How do we know that they weren't sabotaged? How do we know that someone didn't jump in,
loosen the bolt,
loosen a bolt here or there? They already tried to get him out politically. Why wouldn't they then stoop to this?
Yeah. Well, the guy who plays the old coach is the same actor who played Mr. Ducksworth in the first Mighty Ducks.
Is it?
So we know he's a shady guy.
We do know he will stop at nothing.
Mm-hmm. To get...
But there was no investigation. I was waiting for that. That was the piece that I was like, wait, shouldn't somebody be looking into this? Because that seems a little fishy.
Well, and it just abruptly ends. There's no going back to Jamaica. There's no. Maybe that's the sequel. They're going to make a sequel for Disney Plus, and it's.
Are they working on it? Is this one of the 50 ones they're redoing?
They will. They're redoing everything, so it'll eventually come around where it's like. And we're going to make a sequel to Cool Runnings, and it's their kids. I don't know.
Thing we haven't talked about yet is how accurate is this based off of real life? Because this was a real situation where Jamaica brought a bobsled team to the Olympics in 1988. Yes, 88.
88.
And I was interested. Most of the things that I saw online were like, there is zero truth. This was just a fabricated story from the beginning.
Yeah, and it when the studio itself, they released it by saying inspired by the true story.
Ladies and gentlemen, if there's some way you want to know how close this is to the real, if it says inspired by instead of, or now what's worse, inspired by or based on? A true story.
Based on, they are usually a little more accurate.
A little closer to the
a little bit closer to the truth. But inspired by, it's so we had this 2-sentence idea that is real, and then we made up the rest.
It reminds me of one of the movies that I watched that they literally took the whole story because they saw a funny headline. Like a wanted ad for a time traveling movie, and then boom, they made an entire movie based off of what would happen if this was actually true, and they actually went this and this and this. That was Safety Not Guaranteed. Was an indie film that was based completely. So that was based on a true story.
Yeah,
but the only base part is or not based, inspired by a true story. So yes, this was as much as I could tell, there was very little that was true about this other than the scenario itself.
Oh goodness. I do go back just kind of the heart of the film a little bit. I do love just kind of like the parallel stories of the guys as they, you've got Yule who's learning to be proud of his heritage. You've got Derice, who is like coming to terms with his heritage and being the son of a gold medal Olympian, and what does it look like to be a champion? And then you've got Junior, who's trying to like step outside of his own dad's shadow and kind of, be his own man, which is always a fun little sequence when he's standing in the mirror and be like, you are power, you are, all of these things.
I was definitely heartbroken when Derice loses because of Junior knocking, because he has everything going for him. The whole city is rooting for him, and then because of one guy tripping and falling, he loses out completely.
Yeah, and you're like, this is legitimate. This is heartbreaking. Yeah, he's got a legitimate complaint there.
I feel like they could have said something. I don't know Olympic rules and everything like that. You might know better than that. I really don't watch the Olympics. at all. I know that this is heartbreaking for you because this is the most
I
American you
love the
feel.
Olympics. Yeah, when these big, yeah, we will. The opening ceremonies are fun, all of that, and I think some of that has to do with growing up watching Cool Runnings and watching Mighty Ducks 2. I think growing up watching those two movies, like, we are Olympic nuts. Though I got to say, in the past few years, it's not been the same. I don't know why.
No, it's not. Are you super excited for the Olympics coming to America in a couple years in
Well,
2026?
they're not coming to America. They're coming to California. Those are
Oh,
two
my
different
bad.
things.
I'm
Um,
sorry. I know that is another country for you.
right. They're going to the left coast.
The left coast.
But nonetheless, yes, I will be excited. I will, watch the opening ceremonies, get a little choked up, little frog in the throat.
Do you
when
think
they
they're going to
get.
bring Spielberg in to do some of the work for
I
that?
sure hope so. So that was one of the things, like, the Summer Olympics in London, when they got
Oh,
Danny. What's Danny's last name?
Boyle.
Boyle. Thank you. Danny Boyle, to do all those opening ceremony sequences. Like, that's an incredible opening ceremony. I know people talk about the size and the scale of the Beijing Games, but they don't, in my opinion, they don't compare to the incredible storytelling that Danny Boyle does in the opening ceremony of the London Olympics. I mean, you've got the whole James Bond parachuting in with the Queen, the recreation of the English countryside. You've got a celebration of their national health system, utilizing Voldemort. Like, what? But I think my favorite sequence, and we're going on this rabbit trail here, but if you've never seen Mr. Bean with the London Symphony Orchestra playing the Chariots of Fire opening number at the opening ceremony of the Olympics, you are missing out. Like, honestly, top 5 funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It is, it's Rowan Atkinson at his best. He's a comedic.
So you like this a little bit better than Tom Brady's wife doing a long walk in Brazil across the field. It was a little bit more striking than that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Gisele Bündchen, who's Tom Brady. I also enjoyed the COVID. That is not the right word. Coldplay, when they were a part of the Paralympics.
They closed the Paralympics. Yeah,
that was also very masterful.
Yeah, that was interesting because, like, at the time, everybody, when they got to the end of it, of the opening and closing ceremony of the games, there was 2, like, everybody's, where's Adele? Like, she was huge at that moment.
Yep.
And she has a song about London called Hometown Glory, one of my favorites of her. And nothing. And we still don't know why she wasn't involved. And then everybody was like, where is Coldplay? Like, how do you not include Coldplay? Because the closing ceremony of the Summer Olympics was just one giant concert. It was huge. And it ends with Paul McCartney playing Hey Jude.
That's about right.
So when they come back around for the Paralympics, and they pretty much just handed the whole thing off to Coldplay, and Coldplay does their own concert. That was really cool. I've gone back and rewatched that a few times. You just turn it on. It's a great little
nugget.
Great little thing while you're doing something else. It's awesome.
So, Eddie, as we reach the finish line of this winding episode, how would you what fruit snack rating are you going to give this movie?
There are strong nostalgia pushes. Okay. I'll give you that. But also in rewatching, like, I just think it's a strong movie. Like, I think it's just well made. So I'm going to give it 4.
I think I'm going to go.
Deep breath, pondering, finger on the lips.
Yeah, this is a tough one because there is some great moments, some funny lines. Still think there's a part of it where you kind of have to turn your brain off a little bit and just enjoy the ride, as it's called. It's
Feel the
very
rhythm.
very much a popcorn
Feel the rhyme
style movie. So I'm going to go about 3.5. You can go 3.5.
Just dial it up.
Yeah, I know you want me to. I'm
more.
still biting off a half of it because I don't know that I would go like world changing. It was like you turn on, enjoy it, fun.
So if they were going to be making this movie now, remaking whatever, what would be the same? What would be different?
Probably making sure the heritage of the actors are from Jamaica. We were definitely going to push for that, aka Mulan. 100% that would be a part of it. I'm trying to think who they would cast because John Candy is no longer with us. They're going to remake this movie in 2020. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who.
So it's funny that you would bring that up. Yeah, that's exactly who I had already thought of.
Great idea, Eddie. This is great.
Yeah.
This would continue his sports movie. It's not even a trilogy. He's in so many of them.
Right. No, but I was trying to think about when we were talking about John Candy, who's usually the funniest guy in the movie, but in this movie, he's the straight-faced guy. I was trying to think like what other actor who has done that. And the only one I could really think of was Will Ferrell, maybe in Stranger Than Fiction.
Yeah.
That movie's not a comedy. It's more of a kind of a dark comedy.
It's a dark comedy. I wouldn't say that he would necessarily. He actually kind of. If they were going to make this again, I think they would. Those bad guys, they'd have to make them more outlandish. Like that's where you would see.
Like they'd be nefarious.
Will Ferrell as the nefarious. Or no. This would be a great. It would be a great place for. I'm thinking of Rob Schneider. I'm thinking of this is gonna annoy me so much. Yeah, I can't. Tropic Thunder, main guy from Tropic Thunder.
Ben Stiller
as the Swiss guy. That would be, or one of those, even though he's not blonde, like him playing one of the bad guys in it.
Yeah, you get Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn.
Ooh, Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. Maybe Vince Vaughn's your straight-faced guy.
The coach. I could see that. He's played that kind of a character before.
I like Vince Vaughn.
Get some of that fast talking. You see him in the bar and he's losing out. He does the line, yes, tumbleweed, no tumbleweed, no tumbleweed. So I think we're going Vince Vaughn. I think Vince Vaughn is recast as that as him in this.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. And then you get Ben Stiller to play the Swiss guy.
I think we've already made this movie, Eddie. We need to just write it out and pitch it and then get paid and then move on with it.
But I think it would more or less kind of be made. More or less it was made when they made Miracle. Did that get suggested to you when you finished watching Cool Runnings?
Suggested to me? By who? Who would be suggesting?
The algorithm of Disney Plus.
We're gonna hit that movie. That's like one of our last ones, right? I'm guessing.
I don't know if we do. Go to our website, honeywemade.com/movies.
It's in the second to last year. It's 2004 is when it came out. But it's not even one of the last 10 movies that we cover.
Whoa.
Because 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
so many
7,
come
8,
out of
9.
towards the
There's
end.
10 movies in 2005, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 15 before the end. But yes, you should go to honeywemade.com/movies because you can see all the movies we're going to be covering, all the ones we have. I keep on trying to update the website, and I keep forgetting to. Every time we have a new one come out on our master list, I keep on forgetting to do that. But yes, please go check that out. And you know what? Right now, just go to wherever you're listening to this, and please subscribe so you can get new ones that are coming out. But before we go, Eddie, is there a poll question that we're going to ask our listeners?
Let's just skip that. It's lived its time. As
we tried.
Somebody said, we've tried. Nobody's ever responded to
it's just
any
us.
Poll question.
We're the only ones responding to
in 19 episodes.
We're not going to make it to 20. So
it's lived its time.
You can write your own question inside the comments when you go subscribe.
Do this for us. Instead of answering that, give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen.
That'd be
great. That will help other people find our amusing ramblings on the movies that defined a generation.
Dare I say the movies that made us?
I think that's copyrighted.
I think it's copyrighted. I think I owe somebody money now. But Eddie, I gotta run. I gotta go shine my bobsled. I gotta go wax it down.
I have to go watch The Nightmare Before Christmas for our next episode because I have never seen it.
Eddie, we are gonna have so
That's
much
a little
to talk
teaser.
about.
That's a little teaser for next week's episode.
Everybody listen.
I somehow have missed The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Well, there we go. That's what's going to be happening. Thanks for listening.